In life, we often walk paths filled with uncertainty, obstacles, and doubt. And when things don't go the way we expect, when we fail, when we feel lost, or when silence surrounds our prayers, it's easy to believe that we are alone. But let me remind you of something powerful. There is a plan for you, a plan that was written not by chance, but by purpose, not by chaos, but by design. Many times people ask, why is this happening to me? Or what is the meaning behind this struggle? But these are not signs of weakness. These are the early steps of awakening, because in the silence, in the setbacks, in the stillness, that is where the divine speaks, not through noise, but through alignment. We often think that control means power. But true power comes not from forcing your will upon life, but from aligning yourself with a will far greater than yours, to trust without knowing the outcome, to walk without seeing the entire path. To believe even when nothing around you confirms it. This is not passive surrender. This is strength in surrender. This is not waiting for something to happen. This is preparation, because when the time is right, what is meant for you will not miss you. But you must be ready. You must be still enough to hear, present enough to see, humble enough to receive. So today, remember, you are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are being prepared. God has a plan for you, and no mistake, no detour, no delay can destroy what was designed for your growth. The first realization one must come to is that struggle is not punishment. It is a process, a refining, a stripping away of everything that is not meant to remain. When we speak of the idea that God has a plan for you, it's not just a comforting phrase. It is a spiritual truth that asks for trust beyond understanding. Life, in all its chaos and unpredictability, is not moving without order. There is structure behind the silence, reason behind the resistance, and timing behind the tension. But the human mind is conditioned to seek clarity, certainty, and immediate answers. And when they don't arrive on our schedule, we assume something is wrong. We assume we're off track. But what if the delay is deliberate? What if the confusion is part of the shaping? What if what feels like a door closing is the start of something higher, something not yet revealed to you because you are still being built for it? The human being often lives with a fragmented vision. We see life from where we stand. We look forward with our plans, our timelines, our goals, and when they fall apart, we fall apart with them. But the divine perspective sees the full map. It knows where you've been, where you are, and where you must go next. The detours, the heartbreaks, the missed opportunities, the unanswered prayers, they are not meaningless. They are not random. They are crafted moments, each one connected to a greater unfolding that we cannot yet comprehend. Just like a seed must go into darkness before it can rise toward the light, the soul too must go through hidden seasons, seasons where nothing seems to grow, where everything feels still, but under the surface, transformation is occurring. Roots are growing, foundation is forming, and when the time is right, the unseen becomes visible. But this kind of faith is difficult because it is not based on emotion. It is based on conviction. It is the decision to continue walking when you can't see what's ahead. It is the decision to show up even when nothing changes. It is the choice to keep your heart open even when disappointment tries to shut it down. This is where spiritual maturity begins, not when everything is going right, but when nothing is, and you still choose to trust. Trust not in a perfect path, but in a perfect plan. Trust not in instant gratification, but in divine preparation. God is not in a hurry because what is eternal does not rush. What is divine is never desperate. So if your season feels slow, if your dreams feel far, if your strength feels thin, remember this: you are not waiting in vain. You are being aligned. Pain is often the greatest tool of alignment. We think of pain as something to avoid, to escape, to eliminate. But in reality, pain reveals. It uncovers the attachments we cling to. It reveals the expectations that no longer serve us. It shows us where we've tried to take control and where we need to release it. Sometimes the reason something didn't work out is because it was not built for your future. Sometimes the reason a door closed is because your destiny needed a different entry point. And sometimes the delay is not because you are being denied, but because you are being developed. There is wisdom in waiting. There is clarity in silence. There is power in surrender. The plan for your life is not just about achieving a dream. It is about becoming the person who can carry that dream with humility, with strength, with resilience. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because every trial has a lesson, and every lesson is a step not away from your purpose, but deeper into it. When God has a plan for you, no obstacle can undo it, but what you must learn is patience, perseverance, and presence. You must learn how to stay grounded even when everything around you shakes, how to remain faithful even when you are unseen, how to move forward with peace even when the path is not clear. This is where transformation lives, not in the mountaintop moments, but in the valleys, in the quiet, in the unseen hours where the battle is not outside of you, but within, where the test is not about strength, but surrender, where your future is being written not with noise, but with stillness. And in that stillness, if you listen closely, you will find whispers that remind you, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Many people live with the belief that they are forgotten, overlooked, or somehow missed by the blessings meant for others. They see others rising, succeeding, being celebrated, and they quietly wonder if perhaps God has bypassed their story. But what they fail to see is that the plan for their life is not on the same timeline as anyone else's. It is not lesser, it is not delayed, it is unique, designed with precision, with intent, and with love. But to walk in that plan, you must first understand who you are. You must know that your worth is not measured by your achievements, not validated by other people's approval, and not defined by the pace at which your life progresses. Your value was established before you were born. The plan began before your first breath, and it continues even now, even if you cannot yet see the shape of it. To live aligned with God's plan, the most essential step is to return to your core, to the silent space within you where ego fades, where noise softens, where your spirit can speak. Most people live disconnected from that space. They chase after results, they perform for validation, they compare their lives to others, and in doing so, they miss the voice inside that quietly reminds them of who they were created to be. There is no peace in chasing a life that is not yours. There is no strength in trying to imitate someone else's journey. And there is no truth in believing that your path must look like someone else's success. The plan God has for you is not mass-produced, it is handcrafted, and to step into it, you must be willing to let go of who you think you should be and begin to embrace who you already are. This requires courage because it means facing the parts of yourself that feel inadequate. It means confronting the fears that have kept you small. It means allowing the layers of insecurity to be peeled back until what remains is truth. And that truth is not found in your performance. It is found in your presence. The way you love, the way you serve, the way you show up in integrity even when no one sees, the way you forgive, the way you endure, these are not small things. These are the sacred signs that you are walking in your calling, even before the external world recognizes it. Because purpose is not always loud, it doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it moves in quiet moments of obedience when you choose discipline over comfort, kindness over ego, patience over pride. Too many people wait for confirmation before they act. They wait for signs, for support, for guarantees. But true faith doesn't ask for a full picture. It moves forward with trust. It understands that the divine plan often unfolds step by step, not all at once. You don't need to know how everything will work out. You just need to take the next right step. The plan for your life is not hidden from you. It is within you. It lives in your spirit, in your instincts, in your deepest sense of right and wrong. It whispers in your conscience. It speaks through your longing. It stirs in your discomfort when you are out of alignment. And if you listen, truly listen, you will feel it guiding you. But this guidance doesn't always come with comfort. Sometimes it pulls you away from what is familiar. Sometimes it calls you to release people who cannot walk with you into your next season. Sometimes it requires sacrifice, discipline, and a letting go of what is good for the sake of what is greater. This is where many people stop. They want the plan, but they do not want the process. They want the blessing, but not the breaking. But what they do not realize is that the breaking is part of the blessing. The process is part of the preparation. You are not being punished when you are uncomfortable. You are being called to rise, called to trust, called to walk in faith even when your emotions try to pull you back into fear. The moment you stop needing to control every outcome, you create space for miracles. The moment you surrender your timeline, you step into divine timing. And the moment you let go of trying to be someone else, you begin the journey of becoming who you were created to be. There is nothing accidental about your existence. Every breath you take is part of a story much larger than you can imagine. A story where pain has purpose, where silence has meaning, where waiting is not wasted. And when you begin to trust that this story is unfolding exactly as it should, you will find a deep peace that no circumstance can shake. A peace that comes not from knowing the plan in full, but from knowing the one who wrote it. There comes a time in every person's life when the external world no longer offers enough to satisfy the questions that echo within. The achievements, the recognition, the busyness, all of it begins to feel hollow if it is not rooted in purpose. This is often the moment when people begin to seek something deeper, something eternal, something that cannot be taken away when circumstances shift. And in this search, they discover that what they are longing for is not more success, more possessions, or more attention. It is alignment. Alignment with a truth greater than themselves. Alignment with a calling that was placed within them before they had the words to name it. Alignment with the divine plan that has always been unfolding in quiet, invisible ways. In this sacred space of inner awakening, a shift begins to take place. The person who once measured their worth by how fast they could move now begins to see the value in stillness. The one who once sought approval from the outside begins to look inward for confirmation. And the one who once tried to control every part of life slowly learns to release that control and surrender to something higher. This is not weakness, it is strength of the deepest kind, because it takes courage to let go, to release the illusion of control, to admit that there is something greater, something unseen, that knows more than you do, that sees further than you can, that loves deeper than you understand. When you step into alignment with this truth, you no longer chase every opportunity out of fear. You no longer say yes to what drains you just to please others. You no longer run after things that sparkle but do not satisfy. Instead, you begin to discern. You begin to listen. You begin to follow peace, even if it leads you in a direction that others do not understand. Because when you are aligned with the plan God has for you, your decisions become rooted in wisdom, not in anxiety. Your actions become intentional, not reactive, and your heart becomes anchored, not tossed by every change in the wind. This alignment, however, is not a destination. It is a practice, a daily returning, a constant choosing. There will be days when fear whispers louder than faith, when doubt clouds your vision, when old habits try to pull you back into who you used to be. But even then, you are not failing. You are being shaped. Each step, each struggle, each moment of confusion is part of the refinement, because God's plan for your life does not depend on your perfection. It depends on your willingness to keep showing up, to keep trusting, to keep choosing truth over convenience, integrity over popularity, faith over fear. And as you walk this path, something remarkable happens. You begin to see the evidence of alignment not in grand, dramatic moments, but in the small things, the peace you feel when you're doing what you're called to do, the strength that carries you when your own runs out. The clarity that comes when you finally listen to the stillness within. You start to notice divine timing in places where before you only saw delay. You begin to understand that closed doors were not rejections but redirections. That unanswered prayers were actually protections. That the people who left were never meant to stay for the next part of your journey. But this level of clarity does not come from rushing. It does not come from striving. It comes from presence, from slowing down enough to hear what your soul already knows, from creating space to commune with the divine, from grounding yourself in truth so deeply that the noise of the world no longer sways you. You become like a tree rooted by living waters, firm, unmoved, growing in season, not controlled by the storms around you. When you live from this place of alignment, you begin to see life differently. You see challenges not as threats, but as invitations. You see waiting not as punishment, but as preparation. You see yourself not as someone lacking, but as someone being led. The more you trust the plan, the less pressure you feel to prove anything. You no longer need to compete. You no longer feel the need to chase, because you understand that what is meant for you cannot be taken from you. What has been written for your life cannot be erased by mistakes, detours, or delays. You are on a path that is guided, not random, protected, not abandoned, chosen, not forgotten. And as you continue to walk in alignment, you will find that everything you need is already within you, waiting to be awakened, waiting to be revealed, waiting for you to believe. There comes a point in every journey where the silence becomes louder than the noise, where the progress seems invisible and the steps feel heavier than before. It is often in these moments that the plan feels furthest from reality, and doubt begins to speak more clearly than faith. But this is the exact place where trust is refined. This is where the unseen becomes more important than the visible. This is where faith stops being a concept and starts becoming your foundation. Because when nothing around you confirms the vision within you, that is when you learn to walk by faith and not by sight. That is when you begin to understand that the path you're on is not about speed, it's about obedience. It's not about applause, it's about endurance. It's not about being seen, it's about being steady. God's plan for your life will not always unfold the way you imagine. It will not always follow your desired timing or match your ideal circumstances. It will often stretch you beyond your limits, test your patience, and confront your deepest insecurities. But it will also shape you, strengthen you, and grow you into someone who can carry the weight of the destiny prepared for you. There are lessons that can only be learned through struggle. There is wisdom that only reveals itself through experience. There is strength that only surfaces through resistance, and all of it is part of the design. Nothing is wasted, not the delays, not the detours, not even the disappointments. Every moment has been allowed for a reason, and every reason leads you closer to the person you are becoming. When you begin to see life through this lens, your perspective changes. You stop asking why everything is so hard, and you start asking what it's trying to teach you. You stop chasing ease and start seeking growth. You stop looking for escape and begin embracing the process, because the process is sacred. It is where the deeper work is done, the quiet work, the invisible transformation that builds character, resilience, and integrity. You cannot rush this work, you cannot manufacture it, you can only submit to it, and in that submission you discover a peace that the world cannot offer, a peace that comes from knowing you are being prepared, not punished. That the delays are not denials, but divine timing. That the silence is not absence, but presence in disguise. This kind of growth requires discipline. It requires consistency when motivation fades. It requires showing up even when it feels like nothing is changing. It demands a level of trust that transcends logic and leans entirely on faith. Because faith is not about always feeling certain. Faith is about continuing to move even when you are unsure. It's about choosing to believe that your steps have meaning even when they seem to lead nowhere. It's about trusting that your obedience is building something eternal, even if your emotions don't feel it in the moment, and while others may not see the progress, while they may question your choices or misunderstand your silence, you must stay rooted. You must stay focused. You must stay faithful to the path laid before you, because God's plan does not require external confirmation to be real. It requires internal alignment. It requires spiritual vision. It requires a heart that is willing to be molded, a mind that is open to being renewed, and a spirit that is anchored in truth. Even when everything else is shifting, the journey will not always be linear. There will be setbacks, there will be failures, there will be moments of confusion and days when you feel like giving up, but each of those moments is part of the refining, part of the preparation, part of the deeper work that is being done within you. You are not being broken down, you are being built up. Every test is developing the character needed to sustain the blessing. Every closed door is protecting what was never meant for you. Every no is making room for a greater yes. And every season of waiting is sharpening your discernment, deepening your humility, and strengthening your dependence on something far greater than yourself. The most powerful thing you can do is remain faithful in the unseen. To keep praying, keep moving, keep growing, even when you don't feel the results yet. Because in time, what has been planted in silence will bloom in the light. And when it does, it will be clear that the process was not a delay. It was the delivery of a promise. A promise that was always yours, always protected, always unfolding according to a divine rhythm that does not rush, does not fail, and does not forget what was spoken over your life. So now, as you stand here, not by accident, not by coincidence, but by divine intention, remember this truth. Your life is part of something far greater than what you can currently see. The delays, the challenges, the moments of silence were never signs of abandonment. They were signs of preparation. Every step you've taken, every tear you've cried, every mountain you've climbed has been woven into the purpose you were created for. God has a plan for you, a plan not built on perfection, but on potential. Not dependent on your strength, but anchored in His grace. Your story is not finished. Your purpose is still unfolding. And if you continue to walk in faith, listen to the voice within, and align your heart with the truth that you are guided, chosen, and deeply loved, you will find yourself exactly where you are meant to be. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is meaningful. This is your path. This is your calling. This is the plan. And it is still unfolding beautifully and perfectly, one step at a time.